oh, hey, I was
Hey,
just going to start
oh,
talking. And then he
howdy.
just, oh, hey,
Are you gonna go? Are you gonna go now?
we'll just make this the intro. So, hey, Phil, how the heck are you? But
Swell.
that's good. That's good. So yeah, Phil is a master electrician, a license holder at Kalos on the electrical side of the business. Has led our electrical team for a really long time. Still has the position of electrical executive, but has gotten into this whole world of estimating. And so this podcast is going to be structured where we talk through just a lot of fundamentals of estimating. There's not only one way to estimate, and we're going to talk about a little bit of that. But then we're going to also introduce you to a software that Phil built. Actually, built it himself.
Yeah.
So we're gonna release that publicly here on this podcast, which is pretty exciting, at least to me.
Awesome.
So, but yeah, before we do that, just remind us about you, Phil. I mean, you've been on the podcast before, but it's been a while.
Yep.
So yeah.
Yeah. So my experience with trade work started in like 1994. In high school, I took an electrical elective there, and I just stuck with electrical my whole career. So I spent probably about 12 years or so just hands-on in the field working for others, until eventually I got my master's license, went into business for myself. That lasted about 8 years. That was a lot of hands-on, owner operator type stuff. That's where I learned to estimate. Really, I had a little bit of estimation experience prior to that, but when I started my business, it was very little. So I had to start with just buying paper prints and doing counts with electronic pencils on them and transferring that data into a program. So I ran my own business for 8 years, and then probably about 8 years again, 8 years ago from now is when I came to Kalos, started the electrical department here, and then about a year and a half ago, started our estimation department.
Nice. Yeah, and it is brand new. So if you think we're coming at you from a position of having done traditional estimating for the last 20 years or something, nope, we have not. And I'll kind of talk a little bit about some of the kind of qualitative ways that we used to do estimating. And it's not all bad, but the way we're doing it now is much more rigorous. So let's start there. Like, how do you think about estimating? What is the role of an estimator? What is the role of estimating within an organization? Obviously, Kalos is one example, but generally speaking,
it's to find the truth. Ultimately, there's a lot of quantification. Just counting widgets. Whatever it is you're estimating, there's a lot of widgets, and so you got to count those so you know what the cost of those are. So it's very, very quantitative like that, and just then trying to just are your prices up to date? Are your labor values aligned with your actual production values? And that actually takes time to figure out, because you could buy a program that gives you labor values, but those labor values on day one with that program mean nothing to you. You don't know how that correlates to your actual production value until you've had some work done with it.
yeah.
So it's understanding, okay, what is the delta between my database value and our actual production values, and then merging that together in order to find a truth of what it costs. It's hard to do if everything you do is sort of nuanced on its own, like everything you do is different. But here at Kalos, we do a lot of similar things on repeat, so we're able to eventually sort of find that truth and tune our numbers to it.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I'm just going to kind of jump big picture here. That's the challenge with a lot of the softwares for companies that aren't massive shops that do exactly the same thing all the time, or like a lot of the same stuff. Because there is, I'll just use refrigeration as an example. So we do a lot of market refrigeration. Well, there's no estimating software built for market refrigeration. Because the widgets that you have, the type of piping, all that stuff is just different than what you are going to see in other parts of the industry. Some of it's the same, hangers and some of the insulation maybe, but now, there's just a lot of variation beyond that. And so that makes it tricky. You're not going to buy something off the shelf that's going to help you that much.
Mm-mm. No, and a big thing, like refrigeration's a great example, is counting widgets isn't the whole story. This just tells you the material. It doesn't tell you how long it's going to take you to commission this rack. This, what is the type of system? What are the usual problems that you have with startup on this system? None of that's going to be found in counting widgets. Yeah. So like, this is where there's a merge of two approaches, right? Like the quantitative approach, this is something I've learned in recent years working with Kalos on building our estimation department, is that, okay, the quantitative part is great, but if we rely only on that, we're going to be leaving a big chunk of level of effort on the table.
Yeah.
So it's like merging that heuristic data, talking with subject matter experts and people who are in the know about what is the actual level of effort of this thing that we're proposing.
Yeah. How many people do you really need? This is what the counts told us. Okay, I'm gonna just jump into that quickly, which is historically how we at Kalos and a lot of people do estimating. And I'll use my dad as an example because my dad's actually a very good estimator. But he does it very differently than the traditional way that we're going to talk about in software. He gets out a set of plans, and the first thing he does is analyze, do I know any other jobs that are very similar to this job? That's literally the first thing in his mind. He's not, before he's doing counts or anything else, he's just saying, it's like Sesame Street. One of these things is not like the other. Like what's the same, what's different? It's that basic look. And then he looks at how that job did. Now, again, you have to have historical data for that to do you any good, and you have to have some similarities. And so that's a lot of have to there. But he looks at, okay, what's the same, what's different? How far away is it from us? Are there any other mitigating factors? Is it an existing building? What's going on in this existing building? Usually at that point, if it is an existing building, he's going to do a job walk before he thinks about anything else. Just what are the actual site conditions here? Is there any difference in access? Where's parking? Where can we stage materials? All those sorts of very, very qualitative questions that traditional estimating software is not going to solve those problems, right? You have to know, because you could say, well, access is difficult. Well, how difficult? How many man days is it going to add to this job? Or how many additional hours is it going to add to this job? Or are we going to have security? Or are we going to have to, there's all these things. How difficult is the AHJ to deal with? Are they the type of AHJ that are going to just on purpose fail you 3 times because that's just what they do? They just have to find something. Or are they going to be really easy to work with? All these sorts of factors. And then he's going to do his counts. Then he's going to go through. But in doing his counts, he's mostly doing counts for the purpose of buying out the job. He's not really paying super close attention to all of the individual widget costs, adding them up and then coming up to a number. The problem with that, of course, is that if you're not really being careful, you may say, oh, okay, well, it has so many valves. Oh, well, these valves need to be stainless steel, or this piping needs to be, or this, at a recent job we had, there was a cleaning protocol that had to happen. Those are things that you can easily miss if you're not being super, super detailed on the actual plans and specs themselves. And I'm not saying Dad wasn't good at that, but that's an area of weakness with the qualitative approach. And just in case anybody's getting lost here, let me just identify some terms. Qualitative means you're just looking at observable. You use the term heuristics. Heuristics is the idea of, or heuristic thinking is the idea of shortcuts in your brain. You see, I don't know, what would be an example of something you see. You see a pile of dog crap on the ground. You're looking for a dog, right? I mean, that's an example.
Yeah, there's probably a dog around.
There's probably a dog around, right?
Yeah.
You make these jumps, and depending on the type of leap you're making, it may or may not be the right choice. But you're taking shortcuts, and that's the way that a lot of small businesses do it. Even our example is recently I met with a plumber. And he was saying, so what do you guys charge per fixture? That's an example of this sort of thing. Yeah. The reason why he thinks that way and says that is because he does residential new construction. And that's a way he's come up with, okay, I charge $2,500 per fixture, $3,000 per fixture, whatever it is. And he's just figured out that when he charges that way, at the end of the job, he ends up making money.
It's a valid approach, too. It just depends on what you're doing. Yeah.
Assuming that everything is consistent, right? Yeah. Now, let's say there's some other aspect to this building. Maybe it has a hydronic in-floor heating. And you say, what's the cost per fixture? And the terms of the contract are that hydronic in-floor heating was part of your plumbing scope. Well, cost per fixture doesn't capture that, right? Because it's not a fixture. And those are the sorts of things that obviously that breaks down. Yeah. What's the term for that type of estimating? There is a term for that. Is it unit pricing? Is that what they call it?
Yeah, what you just...
Yeah.
Yeah, it's unit pricing.
Unit pricing, okay. Yeah. So I kind of think of that as somewhere in between. Like you're doing counts, but those counts are bringing you to, that's like saying a per ton price. That's what, an old timey, we charge, $1,200 per ton, Well, obviously, first off, it's not very accurate because there are the incremental cost of each ton is not proportional. Going from a 4 to 5 is not the same as going from none to 2 or whatever. And so it's not real accurate in that way, but also it tends to miss some things.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a business model in a way too, right?
Sure.
So,
Your business has to serve
yeah.
that.
Yeah. And so unit pricing is if it's reliable, if it works for you and you're able to make money at the end of the day on it, then cool, keep doing it. You just have to know where you need to start to adjust it, and then what that unit price means. It doesn't mean a gold plated fixture, obviously. Like
Right.
this unit price is of a certain standard. But it's a fast way to do estimates. It might be a good way to do, what did you call it? Get a rough order of magnitude, maybe.
Right.
If you're trying to get,
Budget
just
pricing
get
or
in front of something. Hey, I need something quick. What is this going to cost? I won't hold you to it. Yeah, sure you won't. But no, okay. Well,
Do you mind if I record that?
yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now let's talk about kind of your preferred method, which is to be very detailed and to sort of do that on-screen takeoff method. Walk us through with as much detail as you're willing to share what that looks like.
Okay. Yeah. So the first thing is the information gathering phase, right? So you got your set of drawings, construction drawings. You're going to have your specifications, which can be quite extensive sometimes, but a lot of times it's boilerplate. But it's information gathering. So anything that the customer has provided you is where you start. You go through that, and then I have a pretty fixed workflow if I'm doing like an engineered set of drawings. First thing I want to do is I want to count anything that I'm going to rely on vendor quotes for. So I electrical background, so obviously I count light fixtures, distribution systems, and I want to get anything that I need to reach outside of our doors for pricing. I want to get that counted first and out to the door to our vendors. And then after that, then I'll go and I'll do all of the measuring of branch circuit, conduit runs, or whatever the system is, plumbing. We'll do all of our counts to get all of our copper where it needs to be, pipe where it needs to be, whatever. So you just quantify everything with assembly-based takeoff, which we'll probably talk about in more detail. I don't know if you want to go into detail.
Yeah,
on
I
that
do.
just
Yeah,
yet.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So so assembly-based takeoff is an assembly is an assembly of stuff, right? So an assembly of widgets. So it's a box that has a bunch of stuff inside of it. So I'm just counting. I'm like, I've got this box. It's got all this stuff inside of it, and I'm counting it 10 times. So now I have everything that's inside that box.
Right. Like a really good example of that in refrigeration air conditioning would be if you're doing piping, you have a suction line, you have a liquid line, you have insulation, tubing insulation, you have clamps, you have maybe strut, or whatever hangers you're using, saddles potentially, whatever that is, you're putting that all into an assembly. And so now you're not having to count every individual thing. You just take that one lineal length and you multiply it by that many assemblies, right? Is that a good example?
Exactly. Yeah. I've been doing on-screen takeoff almost since the beginning. But it's all sort of like the same. It's just taking different shapes. So like when I first started, I would have to go to the print shop, get my drawings, bring them home, spread them out on a big table, draw all my lines and symbols or whatever. And, at least I didn't start at a spot where I had to do this all on paper. I would count it and then put that into a program.
Right.
But it's all sort of just taking the same shape. So now instead of paper, it's on-screen takeoff. So it's all integrated into one thing. But one dot on the screen represents an assembly of all of these items, couplings, connectors, boxes, wire, everything, just in that one dot on the screen. So you just go through the drawing. You really try to think it through. What am I missing? So you zoom in, and you count the specific thing. Like I'm counting receptacles right now. So, okay, got them all counted. What are they? They hospital grade? Okay, then maybe I need a certain type of receptacle and a certain type of wire. And I'm going to talk in a lot of electrical terms.
No, it's good. That works. That's fine. Yeah.
So I'm just zooming in, and then you got to sit back. Okay, what did I miss? I'm looking over. What did I miss? Oh, okay. We got a rooftop units that I have to now count. So let me go count those and get what size wire is that going to be? I got to reference my panel schedule to figure out the wire size. And so there's a lot of research. You do a lot of research, figure out what is the materials type, size, and all that. What are the conditions, and then count. So it's zoom out, zoom in, a lot of that. And then once everything's counted, then I'll go through the closeout workflow. So you have, it's almost like two different workflows. The one workflow is just counting, getting all that quantitative effort done. Then the second is more of the heuristic side of it, because the quantitative effort doesn't tell you, oh, you need scissor lifts of this quantity for this duration. So you have to think through all of those steps. And so there's a workflow, and this is built into the program we're going to talk about, to where, okay, I've done all my quantitative efforts. Now I need to go and look at all of my items that were in my assemblies line by line. Do I still agree with what each of these items cost? Like I put a value in 2 months ago. Do I still agree with that value?
Right.
So you just go through the process. So you go there, then you think about labor factoring. What's different about this than other projects? Do I need a labor factor? And so, there's about 8 different steps you go through there.
So like labor factor, just to be clear, that would be things like maybe you can't get all of your materials as close as you would like, or maybe it's multi-floor. Multi-floor is a good example.
Yeah. Good rule of thumb is anything over level 4 and up, just start adding 10% compound 10% for each additional floor. Floor number 4 is an additional 10%. Floor number 5 is an additional 20%, and so on. It's sort of a rule of thumb on that. That, or if you're doing a job that's mostly outdoors, well, you're going to have rain.
Right.
There's going to be issues with production values for that. So these are the kind of things that you would think about. What's out of the norm?
Yeah.
And then, but this is also a lick your finger and hold it to the sky. Like, what do I think?
Right.
Kind of thing. Experience is helpful with that. Talking with your peers about the project. I think estimation's often done sort of in a bubble, but we got to get out of that. You got to talk to people, talk to your peers, have people challenge your assumptions, because this is where most of the assumptions happens. It's in this second phase of.
Right, where you're attempting to be, because again, like you said, the counts are the counts, right? Like when you're especially when you're counting materials, you may not nail it, but often that's just because as-builts are slightly different than what's on the plans anyway, and like you can't control that. Like you're not gonna if it's an existing building and you can do a site walk, okay, fine, but even then you're not going to capture everything. And if it's a new building and things just change, well, hopefully you can capture changes with change orders. But sometimes it's just not, there's a beam in the way, and so you end up going around it, and you have a little extra materials or whatever. So
so long as the information was provided properly and you vetted the project and you qualified your assumptions on your proposal, because that's what'll get you. Is if there are gaps in understanding and you don't declare it, then a lot of times you're going to own it.
Right.
But if the information is good, you sent out your request for information, you qualified things, assuming you had time to do all this, then the quantitative part gets you like 80% of the way there. And then the other 20, you really have to rely on experience and just zoom out.
Yeah. Yeah, and not just the experience of what people tell you, but also the experience of what past jobs and their numbers tell you. That's where that's really helpful. And that goes back to what I said, Dad always did. It's like, all right, we did one of these. It's very similar to this one, and we did really well on it. And now the customer's squeezing me, but I know we did really well on the last one. So I'm going to give a little bit here because I kind of need this job, or I really want this job. And I have history on my side. I know how I bid that one, and I know we beat it on a few factors. You may not always even know exactly what it is, but you just sort of know as a whole how the project did. And again, some of that stuff is gut. But you don't want to rely only on gut, kind of what we're saying here.
You can always start there. If you're pretty confident, you start there. It's still not a wasted effort if you know you're going to get the job to go do at least the quantitative step, because this information can then transfer directly into production. We're literally counting the material.
Right.
One thing that gets lost a lot in the whole estimation workflow is the only piece that has value transfer is that final number that we create.
Right.
And I always feel like that's such a waste, because we've drawn it all on screen.
Right.
It doesn't mean you have to route everything the way I drew it, but we're doing a job right now where I literally just took the estimate, or how I drew it and the details, and I gave it to them. I said, now this is an estimate. So I didn't go into engineering detail on this, but this can guide you to how I was thinking about building the job.
Right.
If you go out there, it's almost a mirror image of what I estimated. So this was a direct transfer of effort. They didn't have to re-engineer it. They could just take this as a concept and go with it.
Yeah, and this actually leads me to where something that I'm known for my overconfident statements. So bear with me here, Phil. I know that I know there's a lot I don't know, but I do see sort of an industry wide gap of exactly what you just said. Estimating often is being made responsible for coming up with a number, right? Get the number right. And that's important, but there's so many things that estimating is doing that if done well has real production benefit. And that's the difference between somebody who's just sort of a counter behind a spreadsheet and behind some plans versus somebody who's really trying to think about how is this going to be built, and getting that insight and information from the field and then using that to inform new projects. So when there's adjustments to say, hey, we were going to use these kind of saddles, but we had these issues with them, so we changed to this sort of clamp. Okay, well, now let's do that in the future. And so now next time when you're buying the job out, you can rely on the information that comes out of estimating. Because that's the thing I was very surprised by. I didn't know this because I had never estimated the way that you do with software and all that stuff. And so because when I was doing it early at Kalos, I was literally I kind of came up with the number, gave the client the number, and then they're like, okay, you got the job. Now I'm like, okay, now I got to do my counts. That's more the way I would often do things. And so when I'm going through and doing counts on plans, I'm doing them because I'm going to turn right around and buy those materials. And what I didn't realize is that a lot of times estimating doesn't really think that way, right?
No, well, so it's sort of it's difficult for this value to be a direct transfer of value on every instance. Like I would even say, like the ones I produce for electrical, I tell people, look, this is to provide you with direction. Don't take this and create a purchase order out of it.
Right.
I still want you to qualify it, but this gives you a pretty good idea of what should be in the job, so you're not starting from zero at least.
Yeah.
But it gets more difficult with, like, our estimators are great. I love our estimators, but they haven't spent time in the field.
Right.
So whereas I know when I'm building a pipe rack that, I'm going to need this unistrut and I'm going to need this threaded rod. Like I could literally tell you every piece I'm going to need. If you haven't spent the time doing it, you can't. So you're not going to get 100% of the way there.
Yeah.
You're going to get a good portion, but you won't get 100.
Yeah. The goal is to get as much as can be gotten reasonably.
Yeah.
And a lot of that comes down to and this is stuff I talk about all the time, but just respecting people for their different strengths, right? Like most tradespeople do not have the patience that you and your estimating team have to sit there and work through that project that way. Most just don't. And so don't be disrespectful when they don't get to 100% of what you know out in the field, because, they're going to be strong at what they're strong at. You're going to be strong at what you're strong at. But like you've said, the more you can get those parties talking productively, where there's an exchange of knowledge both directions, that's a really helpful thing. Yeah. And so that exchange of knowledge from a very valuable estimating department is not just, it's like you highlighted something that's super important. Even right away, you're reaching out to these vendors. Well, in reaching out to these vendors to say, hey, let's get some pricing, you're also going to be getting some availability information, which is super important, right? Like if that vendor comes back and says, yeah, it's 90 days lead time and this project's supposed to start in 45 days, that's some information that needs to get back to sales and back to the client as quickly as possible.
If you share that information with a customer, that just shows participation, and they're going to be more inclined to work with you.
Yeah, we see that all the time. Which again, we have this advantage of having a very experienced tradesperson leading the estimating team, which is an advantage a lot of people don't have. But all this is just sort of hopefully building on the value of like why this is a good thing. And I stopped you in the middle of your process, so keep going. What's next?
Okay, so I think I was discussing the workout, the final workout flow of it. So you do the quantitative step, and then you do the more big picture. You go and just think about your general conditions, and there's going to be different for each contractor. You just think about all of the expenses that are above direct labor, above tool time, travel time, whatever your company is. Everybody has their own policy. So what are your real expenses? Be extremely honest with what your real expenses are, because at the end of the day, you're gonna pay them.
Right.
Like if you're like and I think I kind of got through the whole flow of it. But when I think about this, what I want people to be able to do is to be very honest and be able to see the truth in front of them when they're doing their estimate, and don't no, I think we can do this job 20% faster than the last time we did it. Well, how are you going to do that? What's your plan? Oh, we're just going to try really hard.
Right.
Well, you're not gonna get
Right.
there. You need to be honest. And then if we can all do that, what a better world that would be. Like this is all rah rah, but wouldn't this be
Right.
so much better if like all of us just sort of like we're all our production values aren't going to be so far apart unless you have some novel approach to building the project.
Right.
We're all going to be within 5-10% at the end of the day of what our real costs are if you built the job responsibly.
Right.
So let's have our competitive space be that 10% or whatever that we're aiming for a margin, and then actually win the job based on merit rather than just dollars.
Yeah.
This is never going to happen. This is not how things work. But this is like in my mind, I'm like, oh, this would be just such a better environment for contractors if we could do this.
Yeah. You and I share the same idealistic streak, I think.
Yeah.
But there are cases where jobs have significant overages because of slip in labor, either putting too many people on a job or the culture sort of degrading where people are just sort of standing around when they should be working or on their phones or whatever. But assuming that that labor is staying consistently working, something we've also talked about a lot. Like our goal is never. I hate shops where the goal is just to squeeze as much as they can out of everyone. That's not the point. The point is just consistent, steady, quality work output. That's all any of us should be asking for tradespeople from tradespeople. All right, so let's talk about what you saw in existing software that made you decide to say, "Hey, I want to build my own."
Yeah. So that sort of developed out of my interest once ChatGPT hit the market. Was that like 2023 or so?
Yeah, 2022. Yeah.
Yeah. So like it came out and you could tell it to tell you a poem in a funny way. And I was like, this is pretty interesting. I need to learn about this. This is going to, you could see already, like this is going to be a tool, and I like tools, and this is going to be probably the most powerful tool that's ever been given to humanity. So let me, let me learn how to leverage it the best I can.
Yeah.
I didn't know I was building an estimation software at first. I tend to like to build things that for whatever my current challenge is.
Yeah.
And my current challenge, which I finally am okay to being at that spot where solved.
Right.
Was providing a detailed summary of work from estimation to handoff consistently.
Yeah.
Regardless of the amount of pressure that we're on to move on to the next bid or the next thing, getting that quality handoff. I was like, okay. So when I started building it, I was just really trying to think about how I can get the data into an AI model to give me some kind of output. And I was like, well, this is just not working. This is, AI even today is great, but it makes up a bunch of boilerplate, useless stuff. It's like, okay, so I need to get this closer to the information. How am I going to do that? Well, I'm estimating, and I'm thinking what I'm doing every time I place a symbol on a page, I am qualifying the scope of work. Receptacle, 2 receptacles, 3 receptacles. How much conduit? I am literally qualifying the scope of work right now. It's like, okay, well, I guess I'll build an estimation software. So just started down that road, and now we have one. It's in AI integrated. The AI now has contextual awareness of your drawings. So you can do this with Google Gemini or whatever. You can just go drop your PDFs in and it can talk to you about them. Well, this is built directly into our Unity Build estimation software. So it has that. And then it's also web enabled. So you don't have to go to a separate interface to search the web for some product, whatever. You could say, hey, like I've been doing this a lot lately with it, is check the price on 12 gauge wire. Now you're going to get internet prices. So this isn't going to be your best pricing, right? But at least it can qualify you're not low.
Right.
And it'll find 5 or 6 websites. It'll give me the pricing, and I can click the links and go find them. So it doesn't break up my workflow. And
Right.
Because a lot of times if something breaks up your workflow, sometimes you just won't do it.
Right.
When you should. So having it right there makes it easier to do that. And then just yesterday released additional context to where the model is now context aware of everything you counted, everything that was in your closeout, all the equipment you included. And there's more work to do with it, but now it generates a pretty decent report. We're changing our internal workflows now to where now we have a nice report consistently with just a quick question that I can copy paste. Here's my report. And of course I can edit whatever. So this was always the goal. I want to be able to produce a high quality report to hand off to sales or production or whoever repeatably. And, finally, yeah, we got
Yeah.
it. And this is by getting the technology closer to your data. So, like, I think I veered off away from your actual question with what drove me to make the estimation software. It's like the software we had were very good. It's a very good software. But it was priced in a manner that was, well, we're not going to onboard our entire sales team and we're not going to get production in here. Like, so it's very behind a paywall. And so it was keeping our data behind a paywall that didn't make it easy for us to transfer that value to the production. Mm-hmm. So this was another motivator is I wanted a tool that was fluid and I could have it structured in a manner to where we can invite as many people as we want. Mm-hmm. So long as we have a license available for it. Of course, we own it, so we can do what we want. But right. This is the structure is once you buy one seat and invite 5 of your estimators to it. So long as there's a seat, somebody can use it. So that this way now your information is no longer siloed, and you can bring in other people from your team to dig in and really see, well, how did you get to this number?
Right.
Yeah. So getting closer to the data is what I really wanted to get closer to the data, and then to bubble it up to the level of for the estimators to understand it and to get some better control over it too.
Yeah.
So a lot of these softwares also, and I'm definitely not knocking any of them. They're all really good products, well vetted products. But there's a lot of things that are like hitting in complexity. Your database management is presented in a way in a lot of these softwares that you don't want to touch it. You're afraid to break something.
Right.
Or assembly building is complex and it's too programmatic in nature. And we can't expect our estimators to learn how to write, inline if-then statements in order to create an assembly.
Right.
So I wanted something to where estimators could build any of their own. They need an item, build it. You need an assembly, build it. It'll take, in within 5 minutes, you have an assembly that you've built, and you can adjust and you can share it with the rest of your team. You have it forever. And it's a very intuitive, no-code way to be able to tell the program, I want this many items for this length. And then we quantify it however you say with a very simple no-code UI that we built into it.
Nice. So did you teach yourself to program through this process?
Yeah, I did. Yeah. So probably about maybe almost 3 years now. So ChatGPT came out and I was asking it, I was like, hey, ChatGPT, you're really cool. How do I learn more about you? I don't know, whatever dumb question I asked it. Right. And it just led me, it's like, well, I said, I don't know where to start, but I want to learn more about AI. And of course that led me to Python,
right.
People who know, but Python is the AI language. And so it's like, it suggested some courses, but the top course it suggested was Python for everybody. I wish I could remember the instructor because he was great. But I took that course online. That was about 6 months to take that. And then I had some building blocks. And, I just played around at home, just built different things. Mm-hmm. And everything was about AI. It's AI everything. I was trying to figure it out. Yeah. So about a year of that, of learning programming. And then you were kind enough to let me engage with building a tool for our website. I don't know if it even gets used anymore, but
I think it does. Yeah,
maybe some. Yeah. But anyway, I was able to learn a little bit about back end, and what's TypeScript? Okay, these new languages, and I stumbled through that, but then eventually got something released and learned some things along the way. I was like, okay, I can kind of work my way through this. And then eventually, I was like, okay, I think I know enough to where I can start building tools, and then landed on building an estimation software.
Yeah, very cool. So, okay, we are going to tell people how to actually use this software for anybody who's getting bored and what's the point of this?
Yeah.
And we would be excited to have people use it. Now, I want to caveat quickly before anything else Phil is going to say. This is another one of these things. You guys all know the way that I like to do things. I prefer not to have outside investors. I prefer to control. This is another one of these types of things. This is Phil's business. I'm kind of taking an interest in it, but this is really his baby. And I love that about it. I like software. It's very similar to, for those of you who have worked with Russ King's Quick Model software. Phil actually has the same vibe as Russ in general. You know, he's like an artisan. He really cares about his work, and he's building a tool that supports something that he's already had to do for a long time. Kind of similar kind of creature there. There's really good things about that, which is that I can assure you that this software is going to get better and better over the years because it's being built by someone who's actually having to use it themselves, which is great. Downside is that it's new. There'll probably be bugs. There'll probably be things that are like, this is stupid. I wish it wasn't this way. You know, like there's going to be those things. The advantage is that you can contact directly the guy who knows why he built it the way he built it and is actually going to be involved with fixing it when it breaks, right? So that's kind of cool. I think that's cool. But if you're like, hey, I absolutely need this for a giant team of 30 estimators, probably not the right fit right this second, right?
I would agree.
We're not calling it I don't know. Are you calling this a beta launch? I wasn't.
I mean, I would call it a beta launch.
Okay.
I mean, it is it's not officially launched. I mean, we're using it internally.
Yeah.
When we have 5 people actively using it at any given time, and then plus another 5 people passively jumping in. And certainly we found some bugs along the way, but yeah, we squash them right away. And
yeah. Bug squasher.
Bug squasher.
That's you.
Yep.
All right. So now, who do you think would be the ideal customer, and what would they expect if they go onto the Unity build site and they say, okay, I want to start using this?
Yeah. So I think that the ideal company is like a small to mid-sized team, you know, like we're managing just fine with 5 estimators on it. But with that, I can see once you get more than that, you can get a little chaos in the system because there's a lot of freedom in the system to build assemblies and manage your own prices and all that. We don't have a lot of controls for like these enterprise level softwares of you're a level 2 and you can only do this and this and this.
Right.
You know, there might be some lightweight integrations like that because people I think are going to need it. But as of today, it's very freeform. Get in and get started. And so people can kind of mess each other up. But there are also controls to where we can teach you how to make sure you're not messing each other up. Yeah, so we're able to manage that pretty good with 5 people. But I would say, a small to mid-size construction firm would be the ideal client, and somebody who's people who are tech forward. You know, I'd say, you know, I would guess that you know if you're a veteran estimator and you're committed to a software, you know, and I'm not too interested in this AI whatever stuff. You're probably not going to be too inclined to change because what you have works for you and don't want to learn something new. Right. But if you're just you start in Contractor or you're not satisfied with a certain product and you just want to jump into something new and see how it's going to work for you. And you know, if you're interested in a product that's going to grow over time, because I mean, this is something I was thinking about on the way over. I was like, oh, what kind of questions is Brian going to ask? Probably this one. This is how I feel about that. This is how my brain does. But no, it's, you know, I mean, yeah, I love the product. I love estimating. I love building tools that are useful. I don't enjoy buttons that I never touch. So if it's not useful, don't build it.
Right.
But build in the direction of the thing that needs to be solved. Yeah. So right now it solves my problem, right? Because that's the problem I knew about. And then we gain customers. What are your concerns? What do you need? What are the tools that we haven't built for you yet that you need? Okay, let's see if that makes sense and we can build that for you. Right. I'm very excited about that proposition. Definitely people who are tech forward because it is AI integrated. But one very important thing with the product, you don't have to use the AI. There's a lot of these money grabbing products out there, I think, at least the way they're advertised, to where you put a simple prompt in and it tells you the cost of your kitchen remodel. In my mind, that might be okay for a rough order of magnitude, give me an idea. But this is not how you present numbers to your executive. I could never put a bid together and give it to you and say, yeah, no, I put in a really well-engineered prompt. No, it wasn't. And this is the cost. And then, okay, I'm going to hang tens of thousands or millions of dollars on that. Right. No. So you don't need the AI to do it. So the core idea when I was building it is like, I want AI there if you want it to augment your work, to help you think through problems, and to help you find the solution faster, should you want it. but the product has to have all the tools that you would normally expect if AI wasn't there.
Right.
So it does. So that's where we are in phase one, and then phase two is going to move into more building more AI integrations to help you get to your end result faster.
Yeah. So I think people who are going to commit to a workflow, I think maybe you need one, and maybe you know that you're doing it kind of the old school way that I used to do it, my dad used to do it. Maybe that's not good enough now. That now would be a great time. And I honestly can say, if I were a contractor and I didn't know Phil and I didn't know anything, and I saw this product, this is the one I would choose, because it's built by a contracting company for their own use, which is that's the way that I like to buy software. I mean, that's the way I like to buy any solution, by people who are actually like they're solving a problem for themselves. So there's that. The other thing is that the sort of the cloud-based, completely cloud-based is huge. A lot of the really good softwares out there really aren't truly that way. So talk about that a little bit. What makes that different?
That's actually really that cloud technology really is an enabler. So it is it's browser-based. So you don't have to install anything on your system. You just visit a website and log in. And so that alone makes it accessible to everybody. Because one of the big little nuisances with new softwares is downloading it, waiting for some email response to get it, and then signing up to some burdensome license or whatever. It's like, no, just give me a subscription. You can cancel my subscription anytime if I'm not happy with it, and just let me visit a website. And this also enables rapid release, so we can just release something overnight, and then you just have it when you log it back in the morning. So yeah, being cloud-based is great. So we store your documents, and your data is managed in a database. You don't have to build one. We manage this for you. And we have 3 estimators on the other side of the world using it. So this helps expand your workforce availability too.
Yeah, right. Yeah. No, that's huge. That's actually one of the big reasons. And you just revealed something that a lot of people don't know, but there are a lot of really well-trained folks who work all over the world, who, and not only that, it kind of creates, if you're interested in having 24-hour-a-day coverage, you can even do that. We do that with some other things. And this just really does make it easy for anybody. They don't have to have weird licenses. They don't have to have software that they've got to download or anything strange. And if I understand correctly, you can have more than one person collaborating on the same project at a time if you need to.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, and that's huge.
Yeah, that is really big. You have an estimator who's halfway through a bid, and then something comes up, they can't finish it. I can jump in and help them finish it.
Yeah.
And this is all happened in real time. They add something to a page you're working on. As soon as your page refreshes, now it's on your page too.
Yeah. Awesome. So another thing we talked about was the pricing. So don't leave this in, but what did we settle on? We settled on like $300 a month. Is that what it was?
Well, no. We settled on $125 a month.
$125 a month.
Yeah.
My goodness.
Zoinks.
That's what a value.
Yeah.
What else do they get for?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Wow, these guys are giving it away.
Yeah. They're giving things away. They're crazy prices.
Yeah.
No, it's a really good. I mean, like that price is. I don't know that we can confidently say it's the lowest of any software who does the same thing. There are some just like strictly on-screen takeoff softwares that might be a little less, but for what it is, I mean, that's an amazing value.
I would say it's a great value because, you're getting a fully integrated system here. There's a lot of tools you'll spend close to that, and all you're doing is really counting parts, and you still have to transfer that information to a spreadsheet and into another program.
Right.
Everything happens in the program. You get from your counting, your takeoff stage, all the way to closeout. All of your information is in this program. You never have to leave the program. Everything is right there for you.
Yeah.
Yep.
One thing that I learned through doing similar things with other people who I supported their software launches is that one thing I'm going to strongly, as an advisor to Unity Build, strongly advise is not making any promises that you're not sure if you can keep or not. So what we're not going to say here is that the price will never change, because we don't know. I think we can both confidently say that we want to keep it as reasonable as possible, and still obviously make a living doing it, right? Like it's a good thing. I mean, like Phil puts a ton of time in this and has already, so he needs to recoup that investment. So everybody's here to Nobody should do anything for free. So we want to make money doing what we're doing, but we want to keep it very reasonable. And I like the model of just a very simple month to month per seat price. It's like as simple as you can possibly make pricing.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. Accessible. Did I miss anything there?
No, it's just, this is sort of, all the little nuisance things that get in your way and just bog you down. I don't want any of that for our customers. The way the program is designed to flow too, like minimal loading screens. Obviously, there's data fetching. You have to get your data off a server and bring it back to you. But we want you to be able to move through the program quickly, be very fluid. We have multi-screen support, even though it's in a browser. Of course, you can, being that it's in a browser, you actually can have as many screens as you want, so long as you're on the same machine with those screens.
There's a lot of future things that, like we talked about an idea when we first started that I'm not going to talk about now, because the problem is if I say that, then all of you are going to be like, well, when you get that feature, then we'll buy it. Right. So I'm not going to do that. But what I can tell you is that this is going to be, buy it for what it is now. Don't buy it for what it will be in the future. If for what it is now is a value for you, then get it. And I think you will be happy with the software once you dedicate time to building a workflow. If you don't put time in, you're gonna be like, well, this is confusing. I don't know how to, like, again, if you've never done estimating before, if you've done estimating before, I think you'll really like it right off get-go. But it's going to continue to get better and better. What I don't want to hear from any of you listening to this is, well, Brian said it's amazing, and now it has this one little thing I don't like. And so, look, I'm telling you right up front, it's a brand new software developed by a very talented guy who knows the trades, and it's going to get better and better and better. And it's good as it is right now. Right now, it's the software I would choose for this. How do you know? Because it is the software that we've chosen. It's the software that we have chosen, right? At Kalos, we have a lot of softwares behind the scenes that we have not released to the public because it needs a lot more work. This is the first one that we really believe is ready for public consumption, for those of you out there who are like, hey, I got 2 estimators, or I'm an owner and I know I need to do estimates better, and I want to use my time more wisely. This is going to be a good investment. It's not going to break the bank. And if you use it for a month or 2 months, and you're like, I'm not really using this, well, then just cancel, right? No big deal.
Exactly.
No big deal. But I don't want any sour grapes from any of you. You hear me? Yeah. It is what it is. And if you don't like it, we're not refunding you. You're just, we're not lying to you. We're being straightforward. We're straight shooters around here. So anyway, and obviously as we roll into this, there'll be, webinars and things, that videos you can watch, and probably do like a monthly live training session for people who have questions, and, things like that will come. But right off the bat, if you're like, hey, I like this, I want to try it out, where do people go to do it? And what do they do?
So they can go to www.
Do you have to say that still?
I don't know.
www.
The W's.
Don't forget the dot.
Unity Build Estimation, all one word, .com.
unitybuildestimation.com. So you have to know how to spell. If you don't know how to spell, use ChatGPT, and it'll tell you. Yes. Unitybuildestimation.com.
.com.
All right, got it. We're going to be putting a video out on this. We're going to share about it on social media. This is like, I'm not going to be talking about this all the time. So for those of you who are like, oh, I remember he said something about, can you just share this with your friends, please? Just when it comes out, if you're like, you think they might benefit from it, just share it to them now, because I don't want to field 1,000 questions about it tomorrow. We would like to get a solid, if we could get a couple hundred users, that would be amazing, so that we can really get rolling with this thing. For those of you who want to do it for charity, don't do it for charity. Do it if you need it and you're going to use it. We're not going to be closer friends if you use this software than we already are, because that's impossible for us to be any closer than we already are. My dear listener, we're already as tight as teeth and gums, I think is the saying.
Yeah, that is a saying that you just said.
It is. We're tighter than teeth and gums. But anyway, go check it out. It's a lot of fun. I'm really proud of you for doing this. I think it's an incredible thing. You've shown, just what a great mind you have to do this. And I encourage other people. I mean, like, I just think it's cool when people build cool things. You have a problem, you try to solve it, and then you may end up with something that can benefit a lot of people.
Get started. Don't wait till you already know. And it's the best time for that. Like, it's literally the best time I can think of to just get started on something.
Yep.
You're going to make a million mistakes along the way. I did making the product. Sometimes you get like a mile down the road on something and you're like, this ain't working. Scrap it. Start over.
Yep. Yep. I always use I talk to, because we have an in-house development team who builds all of our software for Kalos directly. And I always tell them it's like a Lego house, right? Like if you get and you realize you didn't build it the way you want to build it, just tear it down. But you learn so much in building it the first time that building it the second time is not going to be nearly as hard. And you just can't get worked up about that. It's just how it is.
Accept it as part of the process.
Just part of the process. Yeah, for sure. Cool. Well, thanks, Phil. Go check it out. You guys all know how to email me, Brian at hvacrschool.com. If there's some question that you want to get answered beforehand, just filter it through me. I'll get it to Phil. We'll go from there. There's also contact information on the site. But if you want to email me, you can. Like I said, use it if it's good for you. We're wanting to build software that's going to help you do your businesses better. Do your businesses better. That wasn't a very good sentence, but you get the point. We want you to be able to grow your businesses. We want you to be able to compete well. We don't want you to lose money on jobs ever. And hopefully this will help you do a better job of that. And we're going to be very forthright and honest about how we're using it. And so you're going to get that a little additional benefit as well of again, dealing with people who are actually experienced using the software themselves. So enough of that, I guess. Yeah. Anything else?
That's it.
All right.
Thanks, man.
Thanks, Phil. Thanks for watching. If you're willing, give this video a thumbs up and drop us a comment. Don't forget to hit that bell icon to stay updated with all of our future videos. And as a quick reminder, HVAC School isn't just a YouTube channel. Dive deeper with us at our main website, hvacrschool.com. Curious for more knowledge on the go? We've got you covered. Tune into the HVAC School podcast, available on all your favorite podcast apps. And while you're at it, join our thriving Facebook group. Also, don't miss out on our free mobile applications available for both iPhone and Android. We're all about community. For techs, by techs.